Fatherless teen living with single mom rescues pregnant alien nowhere. She's a billionaire's. Queen HFY Liam was a boy who had grown used to silence. His father was long gone, and his mother worked late nights just to keep food on the table. Their small apartment on the edge of the city was dark, damp, and always smelled of smoke from the factories. He often roamed the streets at night, scavenging metal scraps or broken machines to sell for a few coins. Life was hard, but he had no choice. One cold evening, while dragging a bag of old wires and rusted parts, Liam noticed something strange. The night sky lit up with a flash, brighter than any star. A streak of fire tore through the clouds, screaming as it fell. His heart pounded. It wasn't a meteor. It was something else. Something alive. He dropped his bag and ran toward the sound. The air smelled of burning fuel, and smoke rose from the forest outside the city. He pushed through the trees, his feet slipping on wet soil until he found it. A strange metal pod lay half buried in the earth, its surface cracked and glowing with heat. Sparks hissed. Flames licked its sides, and the ground shook as the machine groaned. Then he heard it. A voice, weak, trembling. Inside the pod, a woman lay curled against the shattered walls. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly like liquid silver, her eyes glowing with faint light. She was bleeding, her chest rising and falling with effort. And she was pregnant. "Help! Me," she whispered in a voice that echoed inside his head rather than through his ears. The pod gave a sharp hiss, a warning sound. Liam stepped back just as the machine erupted in sparks. Flames rushed out, and he knew it was going to explode. His legs trembled, but he couldn't leave her there. He grabbed her arm, pulling with all his strength. She gasped in pain, but allowed herself to be dragged out. The moment her body cleared the wreck, the pod went up in a violent blast. Fire shot into the sky, trees bent from the force, and dirt rained down. Liam's ears rang and his hands burned. But the alien woman was alive in his arms. He carried her back through the forest, stumbling toward the city lights. His mother gasped when she saw him burned clothes, dirt-covered face, and the strange glowing woman in his arms. "Liam, what have you done?" she whispered in shock. "We can't let her die," he said firmly. His voice shaking, they laid the alien woman on the couch, covering her with a blanket. She trembled, clutching her stomach, her eyes darting around the small room. Slowly, she began to speak in broken words, learning their language as though it came back to her piece by piece. "My name is Serafina," she finally said. "I am hunted. You must hide me." Before Liam could ask more, the sound of thunder shook the air. But it wasn't thunder. Outside, black triangular ships flew low across the city. Explosions followed, lighting up the night sky. Missiles struck buildings in the distance. Fire spread across the horizon. The war had arrived. Liam and his mother pressed at themselves against the window as one of the black ships hovered above the neighborhood. A voice boomed through strange speakers. "Turn over the queen. She carries the child of the empire. Refusal will bring death." Liam's heart froze. Queen? She wasn't just some refugee. She wasn't just an alien. She was a ruler. A queen. And the child inside her was more than just a baby. It was the heir to a galactic throne. Serafina grabbed Liam's hand. "Please, they will kill me. They will kill everyone." The next explosion hit close. The apartment walls shook, glass shattered, and screams rose from the streets as people ran in every direction. Drones descended, firing blasts of light that burned holes through walls. Liam's mother pulled him back. "We have to run." The three of them fled into the night as the city burned around them. Firestorms lit the sky orange, buildings collapsed in waves of dust, and the air was filled with choking smoke. Liam held tightly to Seraphine's arm, guiding her through alleyways as drones scanned above. Every corner was filled with terror soldiers in black armor storming through, dragging people out, asking if they had seen the queen. Liam's mind raced. Why had fate chosen him to find her? He was just a boy, but each time she stumbled, each time her glowing eyes looked at him in fear, he knew he could not abandon her. Days passed in hiding. Liam, his mother, and Seraphina moved from one ruined building to another, always chased, never safe. Food grew scarce. The city had become a war zone. Strange alien bombs ripped through streets, leaving fire craters behind. Each night the sound of explosions shook the ground, but the danger grew worse when humans turned against them too. Government broadcasts declared Seraphina a threat. They claimed her unborn child would bring destruction. Soldiers joined the hunt, working side by side with the alien assassins. Liam's neighbors betrayed him, pointing fingers, shouting that he was harboring a monster. Still, he did not stop protecting her. One night, they found shelter in the underground subway tunnels. The silence there was broken only by dripping water and distant echoes of battle. But the peace didn't last. The tunnels shook violently. Explosions thundered above. Rubble fell from the ceiling. Seraphina gasped in pain, clutching her stomach. Labor had begun. "No," Liam whispered, fear in his voice. "Not now. Please, not now." But the sound of footsteps and weapons grew louder. Soldiers and assassins stormed into the tunnels from both ends. Their red scopes glowed in the dark. Liam's breath caught in his throat. There was nowhere left to run. He stood in front of Seraphina, gripping only a metal pipe he had found. His hands shook, but he refused to move. Plasma rifles hummed, aimed straight at him. "Step aside, boy," one of the assassins hissed. Liam's voice cracked, but he shouted back, "You'll have to kill me first." For a moment, silence. Then, laughter. Then, weapons charging. But before the first shot could be fired, the tunnel walls shook again this time, not from bombs, but from something far greater. The earth trembled. A rumble filled the air above ground. The night sky split apart. Dozens of massive ships descended, each bearing the shining crest of Seraphin's empire. The assassins froze. Humans stared in shock. The Queen's armada had arrived. Blinding beams of light pierced the clouds, striking the black ships that had been bombing the city. Explosions thundered across the horizon as war broke out in the skies. The assassins tried to retreat, but the tunnels collapsed around them, dust filling the air. In the chaos, Seraphina screamed as her child was born, the sound echoing through the ruins. Liam's mother held her hand, tears streaming down her face, while Liam stood guard, fire and smoke surrounding them. When the dust cleared, Liam looked up. Outside the tunnels, the city was no more, it was a battlefield. Alien warships and human armies clashed across the skyline. Entire blocks crumbled. The world was falling apart, and in his arms, Seraphina placed her newborn child, glowing faintly with strange power. "Because of you," she whispered weakly, "the air lives." But her words were not comforting. Liam looked at the sky and realized the truth. Saving her had not ended the war. It had only begun one. Humanity and the alien empire were now enemies. And he, just a boy without a father, now carried the child that both sides would kill to possess. The story ended with fire still raining from the heavens, fleets tearing the skies apart, and Liam clutching the newborn heir, whispering to himself, "What have I done?" Liam was used to being forgotten. His father had died years ago, and his mother worked herself to exhaustion just to pay rent and buy bread. Their home was a tiny apartment on the edge of the city, surrounded by broken streets and ruined factories. Liam often wandered alone, searching trash piles and construction sites for scrap he could sell. He was just another poor boy in a dying city. But one night, his life changed forever. He was walking back home when the sky lit up. A blazing light ripped through the clouds, moving faster than anything he had ever seen. It screamed across the horizon, fire trailing behind it, before crashing into the forest outside the city. The sound of the impact shook the ground beneath his feet. Curiosity and fear pulled him forward. He ran toward the smoke, weaving through empty roads and into the dark trees. The smell of burning metal and scorched earth filled the air. When he pushed through the last line of bushes, he froze. In front of him was no meteor. It was a glowing escape pod, half buried in the dirt, cracked open like a broken shell. Sparks hissed from shattered wires. flames licking its sides, and inside, lying weak and trembling, was a woman. Her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight. Her hair, silver and tangled, framed a face both strange and beautiful. Her breathing was shallow, and her arms clutched her swollen belly. She was pregnant. Liam's first thought was to run. But then she opened her eyes, glowing faintly, and whispered a single word. "Help." The pod hissed. The ground beneath it cracked. He knew it was about to explode. His body moved before his mind could decide. He rushed forward, grabbed her arm, and pulled with all his strength. Her body was light, almost weightless, but she cried out in pain. Just as he dragged her away, the pod erupted in a ball of fire. The shockwave hurled dirt and flames into the air, knocking him to the ground. His ears rang. His arms stung. But when he looked up, the alien woman was still alive. Staring at him with eyes full of fear and desperation, Liam helped her stand and guided her back toward the city at home. His mother gasped when she saw them at the door, her son covered in ash. His hands burned and a glowing alien woman barely standing Liam. "What have you done?" she whispered. "She would have died," Liam said, his voice shaking. They laid the woman on their couch, covering her with blankets. Slowly, she began to speak, her voice broken but clear enough. Her name was Seraphina. She was not just anyone, she was a queen, and the child inside her was an heir to an empire that stretched across the stars. But she was hunted. Assassins had chased her across space, determined to end her bloodline before her child could be born. Liam's stomach twisted. He had thought he was saving just one life. Instead, he had stumbled into a galactic war. That night, the world changed. Black alien ships appeared in the sky, their sharp triangular shapes blotting out the stars. Explosions followed bombs rained down across the city. Buildings collapsed in waves of fire and smoke. Sirens screamed. A voice thundered across the city through alien machines. "Deliver the queen. Deliver the child. Refuse and perish." Liam and his mother huddled by the window as drones flew overhead, scanning every street with red beams of light. Seraphina gripped Liam's arm, its fear glowing in her eyes. "They will burn your world until they find me," she whispered. "Then we'll keep running," Liam answered. Though terror gripped his chest, they fled through the chaos. Firestorms tore through neighborhoods, people screamed in the streets, and soldiers fired wildly at drones that seemed unstoppable. Liam pulled Seraphina through alleyways, dodging collapsing walls and showers of sparks. But things grew worse. Humans turned against them. The government declared Seraphina a threat, claiming her child would bring destruction. Neighbors reported Liam. Soldiers began hunting them too. Humanity and aliens, both against them. Every day was survival. They moved from one ruined building to another, scavenging food, hiding in shadows. Explosions never stopped. At night, the horizon glowed red from endless fires. Liam's body ached with exhaustion, but he never stopped protecting her. One night, while hiding in an abandoned subway station, Seraphina grew weaker. Her time was near. Liam's mother tried to comfort her, but Seraphina gripped Liam's hand, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. My child, he is more than an heir. He carries power. Wealth beyond your imagination. The galaxy will kill for him." Before Liam could answer, the ground above shook. Explosions rumbled closer. And then came the sound he feared most: boots. Soldiers poured into the tunnels from one end. At the other end, black armored assassins entered, their rifles glowing. They had been found. Trapped, Seraphina cried out in pain. The baby was coming. Liam's heart pounded. He stood in front of her, gripping only a broken steel pipe. His voice cracked, but he shouted, "You'll have to kill me first." The assassins laughed. Soldiers barked orders. Weapons charged, their hum filling the tunnel. Liam's knees shook. He knew he couldn't win. He was only a boy, but he refused to move. Then the ground trembled. A roar filled the air, louder than bombs. Dust rained from the ceiling. The tunnel shook, as if the world itself was breaking. Above ground, The clouds ripped apart. Colossal ships descended, each one glowing with golden banners. Seraphine's fleet had arrived. Beams of light shot from the sky, striking enemy ships. Explosions lit the horizon. The city shook as alien fleets clashed in orbit. Soldiers froze in fear. Assassins shouted in panic. The battle above turned Earth into a war zone. Missiles launched. Towers collapsed. Fire spread. Humanity fought back with everything it had, but Seraphine's empire was too powerful. The invasion had begun, and in the middle of it all, in the crumbling subway, Seraphina screamed as her child was born. Liam's mother caught the baby, a glowing child wrapped in trembling hands. The assassins tried to charge forward. The ceiling collapsed, burying them in stone and fire. The soldiers retreated, terrified by the chaos above. Liam knelt beside Seraphina. She was pale, her breathing shallow, but her eyes burned with pride as she looked at her newborn. "Because of you," she whispered to Liam, "my child lives." Liam held the baby, feeling its warmth, but his heart was heavy. Outside, the sky burned. Fleets tore each other apart. Entire cities collapsed under orbital strikes. Humanity was now at war with the stars, and it was all because of him. He had saved Seraphina when he should have run. He had carried her into his home. He had protected her when the world wanted her dead. And now, by his hands, Earth was doomed. The story ended with Liam standing in the rubble, the alien air glowing faintly in his arms. Above him, fire rained from the sky as alien warships clashed with human armies. And in that moment, Liam whispered to himself, "What have I done?" Liam lived in a broken world. His city was scarred by poverty, war, and smoke rising from burned-out buildings. His father was gone, and only his mother remained, working double shifts in a factory that barely paid enough for food. Liam was 16, restless, and tired of feeling powerless. Every night, he walked through empty streets, searching for scrap metal or anything he could sell to help his mother. One night, when the clouds were heavy and lightning cracked across the sky, Liam saw something strange. A ball of fire streaked above the rooftops, falling fast. It was no airplane, no meteor. It moved like it was alive. A deafening roar followed, and then an explosion shook the city. The shockwave rattled windows and sent flocks of birds into the air. Liam's curiosity burned inside him. He followed the smoke, running past deserted streets, until he reached the ruins of an old factory. The roof had collapsed, flames rising high, and in the middle of the wreckage was something impossible, crashed alien craft. Sparks danced across twisted metal, and smoke hissed from glowing cracks. He crept closer, coughing from the heat. Then he heard it, a weak cry, muffled but desperate. Inside the shattered pod, a woman lay trapped. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if light lived beneath it, her silver hair tangled and scorched. She was injured, clutching her swollen stomach. "Help me," she whispered, her voice trembling but powerful, echoing in his mind as if she didn't need words. The pod groaned. The walls were splitting, flames licking closer. Liam's fear nearly froze him, but he couldn't watch her die. He rushed forward, burned his hands on hot metal, and pulled her free. Just as they fell to the ground together, the craft exploded in a wave of fire. The shock knocked him back, ears ringing. But she was alive. Liam dragged her through the smoke until they reached the street. His heart pounded. He didn't know who she was, but he knew one thing: others would come looking for her. He took her home. His mother gasped when she saw the alien woman in their tiny apartment, bleeding and shaking. "Liam, what have you done?" "She would have died," Liam said. "We can't turn her away." He laid her on the couch, covered her with blankets, and gave her water. Slowly, she recovered enough to speak. Her name was Seraphina. She was not a soldier or a wanderer. She was a queen, pregnant with the heir of a galactic empire. She had fled because assassins wanted her dead before her child could be born. Liam's stomach dropped. When he heard the truth, he thought he had saved one life. Instead, he had placed himself at the center of a war. That night, the sky over the city lit up with fire. Black alien ships descended, their engines howling like beasts. Explosions tore through the streets, fire raining down. Loudspeakers blared in a harsh voice. "Deliver the queen. She carries the child of the throne. Those who hide her will burn." Liam's apartment shook as bombs exploded nearby. People screamed in the streets. Drones flew overhead, searching, scanning. Serafina grabbed Liam's wrist, her glowing eyes filled with fear. "They will kill everyone until they find me," she said. "Then we'll run," Liam answered, though terror shook his voice. The three of them. Liam. His mother and Serafina fled into the chaos. Buildings collapsed around them, firestorms roared, and the sky rained sparks. Liam's lungs burned from smoke as he dragged Serafina through alleys. Everywhere, people begged for help. Soldiers fired blindly, and alien machines tore through concrete as if it were paper. For days, they hid among the ruins. Liam scavenged food and water. His mother tended to Serafina, who grew weaker as her child pressed closer to being born. Each night, the city burned more. Each day, the broadcasts grew louder. Humans had joined the hunt. Governments had declared Serafina dangerous. They said her unborn child would bring doom. Neighbors who once smiled now whispered. Strangers stared at Liam with suspicion. Once, soldiers kicked down the door of a building they were hiding in, guns raised. Liam pulled Serafina through a hole in the wall just before the room was torn apart by grenades. Fear never left them, and yet Liam refused to give up. Something inside him had changed. Protecting her made him feel stronger than he had ever been. But fate was cruel. One night, after endless running, they hid in the abandoned subway tunnels beneath the city. The silence there was eerie, broken only by the distant booms of bombs above. For the first time in days, Liam thought they were safe. Then Serafina screamed. The child was coming. Liam's mother knelt beside her, trying to calm her, but Seraphine's cries echoed through the tunnels. Liam froze, panic choking him. He knew the sound would draw enemies, and he was right, Boots thundered. Voices shouted in the dark. From one end of the tunnel came black-armored assassins, their plasma rifles glowing. From the other came human soldiers, faces grim, weapons ready. They had trapped them. Liam's heart nearly stopped. There was nowhere left to run. Serafina clutched his hand, sweat pouring down her silver face. "Save him," she whispered. "Save my child." The assassins raised their weapons. "Step aside, boy." But Liam stood in front of her, gripping a rusty metal rod like it was a sword. His knees trembled, his chest ached, but he didn't move. "You'll have to go through me first," he said. His voice shaking but loud enough to echo. The assassins laughed. The soldiers shouted. Weapons charged. The tunnel filled with a deadly hum, and then the ground shook violently. A roar like thunder tore through the air. Dust fell from the ceiling, cracks splitting the walls. The earth itself trembled. Above ground, the night sky split apart. Colossal ships descended, larger than any building, shining with golden light. Seraphine's armada had arrived. Beams of light rained down, striking the enemy ships in orbit. Explosions lit up the clouds. The assassins turned in shock, shouting in their alien tongue. Human soldiers hesitated, faces pale. The tunnels shook again as parts of the ceiling collapsed. Screams echoed. In the chaos, Serafina cried out as her child was born. Her voice merging with the thunder of war above. Liam's mother held the newborn in trembling hands. The baby glowed faintly, a symbol of power that both humans and aliens wanted. Liam stood protectively before them, dust and fire surrounding him, his metal rod still clenched. Outside, the battle grew worse. Alien fleets clashed in the sky. Humans fired missiles into orbit. Entire city blocks crumbled. The world was tearing itself apart. When Serafina finally looked at Liam, her face was pale, but her voice steady. "Because of you, he lives. The heir survives." But Liam's heart sank. The war was only beginning. Saving her child had made him a target for both sides. The Empire would demand loyalty. The humans would call him a traitor. And above all, the assassins would never stop hunting. As fire rained outside and the sound of bombs shook the earth. Liam held the newborn heir. He looked at the sky, filled with burning ships, and whispered to himself, "This isn't the end. It's the beginning." The story ended on that cliffhanger: humanity at war with a galactic empire, and a fatherless teen holding the child who might decide the fate of both.